guys, welcome back to the channel. So we have a trans athlete playing victim because this person is having issues getting picked up by a school. It turns out that schools don't want to be bothered with this issue, especially after seeing what happened to SJSU with all the boycotts, with all the bad press that came about because they decided to allow a male athlete on their team. So track runner Sadie Schreiner, formerly known as Candom Schriener, this person competes for RIT in Rochester and holds the 400 meter record and the 200 meter record. Sadie even reached the NCAA Division III Outdoor Track and Field Championships in 2024 and came third. Last year in one of the races that Sadie competed in, they worked out that if Sadie had been competing in the men's division, Sadie would have come last by 2 seconds. So all of these accomplishments have come about simply because this person identifies as a woman and is a male athlete competing in a women's competition. But despite all of that, despite being allowed all of that, Sadie is still playing victim. Every time this person stands on the podium, that is a female athlete who has been denied an opportunity, who has been denied a medal. If any school picks up this person, if this person gets a scholarship, that's a scholarship taken away from a female athlete by somebody who is in the wrong category, who shouldn't be competing in the women's division. However, the two-time All-American in women's track and field is now finding out the hard way that people aren't on board with this. At some point, it's going to come to a head where male athletes will not be allowed to compete in women's competitions anymore. And the schools are already ahead of it. They're recognizing that it's coming to an end. And now these trans athletes are going to have to consider other options. Perhaps maybe competing in the correct category would be a good start.
Doing these videos aren't really my style. My name is Sadie Schreiner. I am a trans athlete in the NCAA, one of 10. I'm a 2-time All-American. I want to take this time to talk about my experience trying to transfer into Division I. After entering the transfer portal, it quickly became clear that I'm on all the hurdles transfers usually have. There is an extra layer because I was trans. 50% of the country banned me from participating, and that meant that I couldn't attend any of those colleges, even if they reached out to me with full rights.
Yeah, the states that have common sense, I don't believe it's right to completely ruin women's sports by allowing male athletes to compete in the women's division. But this is what the NCAA gets when it allows such policies. And we're still waiting for them to be held accountable. And if anything, it's not right for the trans athletes either, because it gives them the wrong message. It gives them false hope, because I'm sure it's a lot of uncertainty for them. Some states allow it, some states don't. Why not just be clear that there are men's divisions and there are women's divisions? There are only two sexes, male and female, and everybody has to compete in the correct category. At most, maybe create an extra category, another category for people who identify a different way. But fairness and safety in women's sports should not be taken away to appease people's identities. This person is not going to be picked up by colleges and states that ban males from competing in women's categories. And this person probably won't be able to compete in those states either. And we've seen what has happened when it comes to boycotts, when it comes to women just outright refusing. So all of these boycotts, women refusing to compete against male athletes, none of it has been in vain, because it sends the right message that even if your state allows it, there are going to be other schools that come from states that have common sense that are simply going to refuse. So apparently there's coaches that wanted to pick up Sadie. Coaches with no integrity, apparently.
It also became clear that in the states that did, no matter how adamant the coaches were to have me on their teams, the college administrations would usually stop them from allowing me to participate. So I took the time to document all of it. Trans people are actively getting attacked right now, and our rights are getting stripped away. And those in power are either endorsing this, or they're just letting it happen. But we're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm sure come this January, you'll see me again competing on the track.
I mean, wow, is that a threat? Is that a threat? I'm not going anywhere, you'll see me. And where else are people going to see this person? In the locker room. Now, I'm all for people expressing themselves the way they want to express themselves. But those photos we saw of Camden that's still the same person. That person hasn't magically turned into a woman, hasn't magically turned into a female. It is absolutely unacceptable. But how many women would feel comfortable if this person walked into their locker room knowing that this person is male? Not many, if any at all. And it's simply not a right for a male athlete to compete in a women's category based on gender identity. This is not persecution against male athletes who want to compete in women's categories. This is about fairness, and this is about safety for women. And that is actually a right. No one is stopping anybody from competing in sports, but sports must be conducted in a way that is safe and fair for everybody, not in a way that infringes upon the rights of certain groups or to appease the desires of others, of a very small minority, by the way, as they love to keep telling us. But look at how many women have been denied a spot on the podium because of this small minority. How many women have been traumatized by having to share a locker room with a male athlete because of this small minority. It affects multiple women. It affects multiple women's championships, women's competitions, women's records. And it is absolutely unacceptable. I hope come January 20th, on day 1, this is banned. You can still compete in sports if you're a male athlete who identifies in another way, but you can't compete in a women's division. Compete in a category that aligns with your biological sex, or push for another category to be created. The NCAA needs to fix this, because this cannot continue. It's a lot of uncertainty for the women and for the trans athlete as well, because the sooner they understand that the majority of people in this country are not for this, the sooner they understand that they must compete according to their biological sex, not according to what they want to be or how they see themselves, that they must compete according to reality, the sooner they understand that, the better. And going along with this charade doesn't help anybody. There are scholarships at stake here, there are championships at stake here, and most importantly, safety is at stake. It's not just about competing in the sport and the nature of the sport, we're also talking about the locker room. And the moment you say that somebody can enter into a locker room because of gender identity, that simply means any man can walk into the locker room. We had schools changing their policies to allow that very thing to happen.
A 6'4", he's actually taller than 6'1", a 6'4" male walks in, disrobes, and is fully intact with male genitalia while we're simultaneously undressing as 18 to 22-year-old girls, and we could do nothing about it. I actually immediately left the locker room, and I went up to one of the officials on the pool deck, and I said, how is this allowed to happen? I understand the guidelines for the competition, but what are the guidelines in regards to the locker room? And he looks at me and word for word says, oh, we actually got around this by making the locker rooms unisex, so it's not a big deal. And I thought about that, and unisex. So this meant that any man could have walked into our locker room, not just a self-identifying female. Any man, any coach, any parent, any official, any man who wanted to would have had full access to, and bare minimum, we weren't forewarned. And actually, Leah Thomas's teammates who dealt with this every single day all year, when they expressed their discomfort to their administration and they sent an email, and I swear I have a screenshot of their response, their administration responded back with, if you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia, here's some counseling resources that you should seek. And that's the general consensus of what's happening around the country, which is why I felt it necessary to get in front of colleges and speak. I think it's so important to engage people my age, 22 years old, to understand what's happening, because that's not what you're hearing in the media.
Were the women informed? Were the women consulted? No. So as we know, President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to ban male participation in women's sports at all levels.
I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of In all of human history, nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Whether he can accomplish that remains to be seen. There will certainly be legal challenges to a broad ban. But the tide is certainly turning on the insanity of allowing males to compete in women's sports. And I'm glad to hear that schools are refusing to allow this. But it's disappointing to hear that some coaches are still all for this. Coaches who know better, coaches who have seen with their own eyes the differences between male and female athletes. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.